So when I was making drum loops for the Combustion Volume 1, I noticed something when I went to test them. It's that the drums worked on everything. They worked on pop style melodies, they worked on dark trap melodies, they worked on basically everything, especially when it fit the tempo. And once I realized that, I wondered, does this apply to other drum styles? Does it apply to pop drum styles? Does it apply to boom bap drum styles? Does it apply to everything? And from my experiments, for the most part, it does. When you have a good understanding of drum patterns and drum samples, everything gets easier no matter what melody you're making. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to the drum style series that I'm gonna be doing. And today, the first one we're gonna touch on is Memphis style drums. So the first thing we're going to talk about is tempo range. The tempo range is going to be anywhere from 120 to 170. Now that is very broad, but let me narrow it down for you. These drums sound best at 140 BPM. Usually want to try to avoid going lower than that. And also up to 155, even though Slob on My Knob by 3 6 Mafia is about 170 BPM. You see me, I'm doing the Illuminati hands. You see that? You might not see my hands though, like just the, you see that? But the second thing that we're gonna touch on is one of the most important things that makes the style, the drum samples. So we're gonna get the first two things out the way. We're gonna talk about hi-hats. You wanna use a bright hi-hat. Most of the hi-hats that sound like a trap 808 kit hi-hat, they're gonna work. We're gonna get to the two categories that are of high importance, the kick and the snare. Now we're gonna touch on the kick first because you can use 808s and you can use a Spins 808. That's the go-to 808 for everybody in the industry, and it'll work. But the thing I've noticed with a lot of the research that I've done is kicks are used quite a bit, especially in classic Memphis songs, but it's even done in modern production today for Memphis artists like Key Glock and also Block Boy JB. Now, the thing that I want you to notice about both of those, there are sub basses in the background over the kicks. There are sub bass lines. That's something that you might want to incorporate melody wise, but this is a drum tutorial. So for the kick, you just want something that's good, that cuts through the mix, that doesn't sound like a live kick, and it sounds like a kick made from synth. So now I want to talk about snares, and the most important thing about the snare, you can either go classic, or if you want to go modern, if you want, you know, more Pooh Shiesty, or you want something NLE Chopper, something that would be on something today, you'll use snares like these. Now the thing I want you to notice about all these snares is they got kind of, you know how the lower mid will have that punch. You want something that sounds like kind of a hard snare. Now, as far as where to find these samples, these are very popular. Most of them are very popular recycled samples. So you can find them in any key. If you just search around, you'll be able to find some stuff. And I'm also for sure that I'm gonna include some industry sounds in my next kit, along with the custom made joints that I do all the time. These are sounds that are super universal that shouldn't be hard to find. Now let's talk about the patterns. As far as the patterns, you want a basic two-step hi-hat, the most you want to do, have 2 triple bumps max. You can just throw 1 in there, you could throw 2 in there, but don't go crazy with it. That's just my recommendation. Now outside of that, the snare patterns are regular. Now let's talk about the kick, because this is the variable that gives the bounce. So I'm gonna show you a few popular drum patterns as far as the kick pattern. Now with those patterns, I'm going to show you how they sound when they're combined together. Now with those types of patterns, when they all come together, they are extremely rappable for any artist. It's gonna be a very good palette for the rapper. And if you do wanna try and diversify it, take it to a different level, you can add some double ups on some of the kicks and things like that. But I'm about to show you something that is very unique when it comes to the Memphis style drums. So now we're gonna talk about breakdowns. They have a lot of breakdowns in a lot of different Memphis style tracks. I'm just gonna go over two that are similar. Project Pat, Project Ho. Now that represents some of the vintage stuff, but now we have NLE Choppa, IYB. Two different tempos, different samples and stuff like that, but the patterns are very similar. Now with these patterns, before we get to how to make them yourself, it's all about placement. If you're doing a 4-bar loop, you want this to be at the end of the 4-bar loop, or you can have it at the end of an 8-bar loop, or you can have it around the end of the verse, or even when you had a whole verse just going regular, you can have this breakdown run for 4 bars. That's just what you can do. You can do it all types of ways. But now let me show you how to make it yourself. First thing, you're gonna have the hi-hat on the regular Phillies 2 steps. And what I recommend is something be emphasized every 2 beats. So if you look at that kick, you could just leave it vanilla like that, or you could just do what we just heard as far as extra kicks. You could put the snare every 2 beats. You could get freaky with it. You could even just do a snare roll at the end. Now, one thing you can also do is just have it this simple. But it's very simple. You just want to emphasize some of the beats. When we bring it all together, I'm gonna take the most popular kick pattern, the 3-6 Mafia one that I mentioned earlier. We're gonna use some of the Memphis samples and stuff like that as far as the snare. And we're gonna go through some different vibes and different tempos over different samples, 2 made by me, 2 made by 2 other people, just so you can know it universally works for these tempos with most compositions. So it's that simple. Use it on your tracks and you will get the most out of the tracks. Let me know in the comments what other drum styles you want to see. I definitely have a lot in mind. We're gonna get to Atlanta. We'll get to some R&B stuff like that. But let me know what you want to see. If you want to know how to make your drums hit harder with this style, I have a tutorial about how to make your drums hit harder. But also, if you just want to know how to mix it with a melody you're making and how to mix your beats in general, I have a whole tutorial for mixing your beats where I give some good game, give a good tip on how to make your kicks bust through the speaker. So check those out. But other than that, I'll see y'all another day. Somehow, some way, I'm out.